Hello, love lovers. When we talk about relationships, we always looking at, the positive relationships because, that's what a lot of people want to focus on because it's the positive side of life, right? But the reality is that there are also negative relationships, right? And these relationships, some of us, we see ourselves getting into them not because we want to, but because of, maybe it's a matter of you have to. For an example, your job, the relationships that you have at your workplace, these are the relationships that you don't necessarily choose, but they are given to you as part and parcel of your job, right? So of course, with such dynamics, there's a lot of conflict that could arise, right? So for today, we are looking at the relationships that we have which are negative, and therefore, in the biggest word, we are looking at enemies from an astrological point. Now, there are different types of enemies in our lives. There are tons of types when it comes to enemies. There are enemies who, that are under the level or under the definition of being a competitor. And, there are competitors who are good and who are good for our growth, good for our development, and for just keeping our head up straight and keep the force to go forward and be strengthened and being challenged. That's the competition that you need at times. So those are the enemies that it's a sport when it comes to the enemy level with them, right? And then there are hostile enemies who just want to tear you down, who don't want to see you, do good in your job or in your relationship, in your life. People who are just haters and full of hate. They see you have a certain achievement and they just can't stand it, right? Because obviously these things come from within. Whoever is, being hostile towards you because of what you're achieving or because of your competence or because of your assets and resources and connections, these are the types of people who are weak inside, who are not well developed inside. And of course, there are tons of aspects and planetary placements that are responsible for this, which is something we're going to get into as the time goes. As I said, I want to bring lots of variety when it comes to topics in terms of astrology so that we can know the person as a whole, right? So we're going to look at all the houses and we're going to define our enemies and the relationships that we have with these enemies, or the relationships that are formed for us, through these people, through these enemies. And in the back of your mind, you must always remember that there are also positive competitors who are here and people who challenge you in a positive way. So when you talk about an enemy, we must also remember it's also about the hostility that comes within. That comes, from the external people or situations or environments, right? And then when we tone it down and use the word competitor, an enemy can be a competitor, right? And a competitor can also be an enemy, but they can also be defined individually and separately as, with different intentions. So it's very important the context of what you are looking at, right? So Let's start with the first house because this is where everything starts. The enemy that you can get or you receive from the first house, which represents you, your ascendant, right? This is where you get your body being your enemy. How can my body be an enemy, Mita? Your body can be your enemy when it is not doing what it's supposed to do. When you are not healthy physically and you have an illness, your body becomes your biggest enemy because now you can't do the things that you have to do. You can't wake up in the morning to go to work. You can't wake up in the morning to push your business. You can't wake up in the morning to look out after your family because your body is failing you. Your body is working against you, being an enemy, right? So the first house is very important as the initial source of enemy in terms of relationships, because even when we're talking about the mental state, because remember the first house is about the head area as well, and this is where your mind is, this is where your brain is, right? This is where your thoughts are. So if you have negative thoughts about yourself, about other people, about your family, about your just in general, then it professes outwards, right? And it obviously it eats you inside and then professes outwards, working against you, working against the person that you are. And then then when we get to the second house, right, this is normally where our family is, where our cousins, our grandma, like the whole family name is, right? Now, when it comes to the family name, where you grow up as an individual, it can be anemic to you or be your enemy if you are growing in an environment that is harmful to you, that is harmful to your development, people who are hurting you, people who are abusing you. And from an astrological point of view, we are looking at the malefics here. The malefics is the Mars factor, because Mars in the second house, it will bring in strife to your development, to how you are brought up, as a child. We are looking at certain. Now be careful. Now certain will not necessarily be an enemy that is here to destroy you, but it will be anemic in the sense that you may feel like you don't have freedom. You may feel like you are being restricted too much. You may feel like you have obligations and these duties that are beyond your power. Therefore, you feel this anemic energy that your family is placing upon you, whereby they expect you to be the breadwinner. They expect you to be the person who's taking care of everyone in the family. And you confused, like, why me? Why can't I catch a break? Why must my family, all of them, call me with their problems? Why must I be paying the school fees of every family member? Why must I be doing this and that and that and that and that and that, taking care of my mother, whereas I have my siblings and they are living the best of their lives, right? So you have these duties and obligations that bring up that enemy vibe from your family members. So now when it comes to the first house, I forgot to mention the astrological points here. When your body is failing you, this is obviously due to transits, right? If you have been well for most of your life, and then during certain transits you start to fall ill and your body starts to act against you, act against your efforts, your mind act against your spirit, your purpose, right? Your ego. And in our natal chart, whereby now there are malefics, and these malefics are not in the same energy level with the ascendant, then you can see things such as disability, in the body, whereby your ability to do things is restricted from birth. And so obviously these things are not chosen by you, but they are acting like enemies against your efforts of having a normal life, right? And with some people with specific transits, they could get into an accident, for example, if it's a manufacturer, and then somebody who was able to do for themselves, and then they're not able to do for themselves anymore, right? So that enemy factor, whereby your own body becomes your enemy and starts to fail you, and prohibit you from doing your tasks, right? So when it comes to the third house, this is a house of our childhood friends. These are our neighbors, and these are, our younger or siblings or the youth within the family. And when it comes to being enemies, this is a behavior that is mostly seen, within the neighborhood stuff. Like, for example, whereby your neighbor plays too loud music in like at 10 o'clock at night, and you're trying to sleep, and they just banging their music, or they screeching their cars, outside the road. Those are the types of enemy vibes that you see easily when it comes to this third house. It could also be a driver on the road, these road rage things. This is where you see the enemy of the third house coming into play. You driving your car, and somebody else is driving their car, and then in the bad mood, and they start to cause some chaos on the road, and then they start to yell, and there's the yelling, and then there's the threats and all of these things. This is an enemy that you catch on the road while commuting, because the third house is about this. And if you have strong planets in this third house, trust me, nobody will be successful, even if they try to come for you. Because of your courage, you will just sail smoothly above the challenges, above the enemies, above all of the efforts, right? So again, it depends on the ascendant, because if you are, for example, a Taurus ascendant, and you have Sun in the third house, then here you could find that your enemies, they actually get to win over you. They actually get to defeat your efforts, and then you start to feel like, I try, but I get outshined by these people. I get whatever, right? But then if you are same, let's use a Gemini ascendant, or let's use Cancer ascendant, and you have Sun, the same Sun in the third house, then your enemies here, they can try and do whatever, but then you will succeed, because the Sun energy supports these ascendants, such as Gemini, Leo, Cancer, and so on and so forth. So it's very important to look at your ascendant, because this is also a house of courage, Because now, when it comes to such enemies or endemic energies, they can come and harm your courage, and then you feel defeated and you don't want to do anymore. You feel like, oh, I'm gonna let go, I'm gonna give up. But they keep, throwing stones at me, they keep throwing this at me. I'm just gonna give up, I'm gonna leave it, right? But if you are strengthened in your third house, that means your courage is great. When they throw a stone, you say, okay, I'm ready. I'm gonna get my chair. If they throw this, you say, okay, I'm ready. You're always feeling like I'm not going anywhere. You can do what you want to do. You can, waste your efforts, your time trying to get me, trying to discourage me, but you only, making me want to work even more, making me want to get challenged even more, making me want to, just sour and just live my life to the best. So you're wasting your time, you're wasting your efforts that you could be placing on your life, right? So it becomes very important. But now, when it comes to friends, these are your childhood friends who can, with time, because of the separation, as you grow older, as you progress, this is where you see the progression of planets and what they do in your life to change your life. Because the person that you were born in, this is what a lot of people should understand. And I urge you, love lovers, to take it seriously, like to keep it in your mind, at the back of your mind. When we're talking about the natal chart, we are placing you at the time when you were born. Yes, this will be the rest of your life. However, as you grow older, you develop, you become a new person, which with each and every experience, with each and every encounter with different people, with disappointments, with enemies, as we're speaking today, with lovers, with husbands, with happiness, with nice life, you evolve into a new person. You progress in all definitions of the word. So when we talk about progression, we want to see the state that you are in today, the state that you will be in tomorrow, the state that will be in, in 100 years' time. We want to see that. But now, when it comes to the third house, because these are childhood friends, as you progress in life, some of the friends, you forget about them. I mean, a person that you met when you were 7 years old, you probably no longer in contact with them, right? When you were 9 years old, you're probably not in contact with them. And maybe you do have 5 friends from your childhood who are still friends with you today, right? But most of these people that knew you can come back into your future as your enemies. And maybe, for example, if you're a celebrity, you know how the media will go and talk to your childhood friends, and then all of a sudden these childhood friends, they say stories about you that embarrass you and all of these things. That's an enemy energy, right? This is also the house of the media, and the media is known to be the space and the channel of propaganda, whereby they can influence people to think in a certain way that is, that is designed to destroy them. Acting in an anemic way, relationship with the public becomes anemic. Of course, we also have the public relationship, the public relationship management itself here, whereby you see that, some people, they come and they say something, and then you believe it, and then you change your stance, you change your behavior, you change your perspective, also acting in an anemic way, right? The most natural anemic energy when it comes to siblings, because this is a house of younger siblings or the youth within your family, within the most natural anemic energy or anemic relationship that you have, which is not negative, but it is a natural thing. It is when you are born, you have all the attention from your family, from your parents. But as soon as your younger siblings get born, that attention gets divided and you lose some of that attention, because now the parents and the members of the family, they have to take care of the younger people in the family, and you could feel left out. You could feel like, oh my gosh, nobody loves me anymore. You could feel rejected. You could feel isolated. And so that is the natural anemic energy that is coming from, the younger siblings. And of course, if there are malefics here, then we can definitely see that there's also strife and conflict between you and the younger siblings as the time goes, right? When it comes to the fourth house of mama, here this is also the house of the local government. This is your local government, your mayor, your department of home affairs, department of this and that, administration. So your local government can be enemy to you, because you have to go have your administration done, and then you have to wait that long queue, and then you have to wait for a due date that is like so far out, and you call this administration and they don't pick up their calls. No one is on the line. So this is an anemic energy that is working against you from your local government. However, now very careful with everything that I'm saying, with each and every house. Remember, it also applies to each ascendant in a different way, because with each ascendant, the relationships with these people that I'm talking about change a lot. For an example, because this is a house of Cancer naturally, it means that a lot of people with the Cancer energy aspecting or in this fourth house, they would probably have the best results when they doing their administration with the local government. They probably would even get calls and be updated, whereas you, if there's a Capricorn energy around this house, you're going to have difficulties with the local government, difficulties to have your papers done, difficulties to just have you being listened to. But it also applies as well in terms of jobs as well, because this is the fourth house looking at the 10th house of career and profession. Some people could find jobs within the local government that allows them to work from home, right? So there is these things that are working well with certain ascendants and not working well, and not working at all actually with some ascendants. And you must remember the planets that are aspecting this house, that are in this house, because if you have a moon here, things will be mostly smooth sailing, right? But then if you have malefic, so to speak, which are not gelling with the energies of this house, things could be a bit egoistic when it comes to sun, whereby you feel like there could be just this energy of wanting to destroy whatever is being done. For example, if sun is here, we definitely know that the father is your number one enemy, because sun in the fourth house becomes aggressive, becomes agitated, whereby the father becomes extremely dominant, so as to kind of like make up for the for the pride that I'm in the house, but then this is not my house, it's owned by my spouse. So I need to show more aggression. I need to show more power. I need to prove myself. So the father here becomes your worst enemy. And, their behavior could destroy you, the mother, the family, and they could literally burn the house down. Literally, literally. I have seen several charts with the sun in the fourth house whereby there would have been fire, literal fire, coming into the house due to maybe the father's mistake, father's chaos, or father's aggression, and all of these things. So we need to see that, because even with Mars, as much as Mars, both Mars and Sun, they go well with Moon, but in the fourth house, because of the frustration that these planets feel, then these energies, these anemic energies out of them come out, and they come out to bite. When it comes to Mars, for example, it can make your mother be your worst enemy. If there's Mars in the fourth house, your own mother could be doing these things that are harming you, or that you feel like it's too much, you feel like it's too much pressure, and there could also be physical abuse where also certain is aspecting this. So your mother here can be your worst enemy. And in terms of get to, for example, your mother can be your enemy in the sense that they can be just literally absent from your upbringing. Maybe they're working too hard, maybe they pass on, but then that anemic energy left by the mother through the distance, the separation, becomes visible in you or in your relationship with the. Thank you for booking on my website. You guys, thank you for the thank you for the, what's the word I'm looking for, the trust in my services. Thank you for that, and thank you for the feedback. I do appreciate your feedback about how things are going in your relationships, and most of the time, unfortunately, I don't remember in detail, about each person, because in between clients, I do get caught up with so much information. So I'm not always remembering like your fine details of, how's your life and who you have in your life, what were the things, So, but I do my level best to remember and try to accompany you or be clear. Like if I don't really recall, it's been a long time, then I don't respond in a way as if I knew the details. So yeah, but I'm always responding because I feel like it is number one rule. When you have a business, you respond to people. So I will respond as I always do. Thank you for your support. Now it's so funny that I'm saying all of this and I'm going to talk about the fifth house, because the fifth house, when it comes to people like us who are in the social media sphere, the fifth house is people who support your creativity. And for artists and actors, these are fans, as fans. This fifth house, it's us, it's the fans. And for people who are in the social media with their businesses, such as myself and other people, then these are the people, these are our clients, the supporters of our creative projects. This is also obviously the house of our children, of our kids, right? This is also the house of scammers, people who will scam you and scam you blind, right? So now, when we're talking about the fifth house in terms of enemies, your fans, if you are a celebrity, can be your enemy. We've seen this so many times whereby fans, they pit one artist against another artist, and then there's this whole vibe, there's this whole mood of artists fighting now due to the fans and their mischief, right? So your fans can be your biggest enemy. Your supporters can also be your biggest enemy, because we are humans. We support you today, and when you do something we don't like, we don't support you anymore. Bye bye. We change our support and we support the next person that is saying something that we like on that day, right? And if they start to saying something that we don't like, bye bye. We go to the next person with our support. Same, right? And when it comes to our children can, I don't like to say too much, let's leave it. But then in the context of the loss of children, this can be an anemic vibe, because you were expecting to hold your baby, to be with your baby, and your baby doesn't arrive in the context that you were expecting, and now you have to deal with the loss. And so it becomes anemic in that way, like, oh, my baby, why you didn't come to me, so, or maybe you give birth, you have a stillbirth, those energies through children can be anemic, right? So unfortunately, but another big one, as I said, is scammers in the fifth house, because the fifth house, you must remember, is also about risks. This is where you see the ability to take risks of a person, but at the same time it is also the people who you're doing the risks with, or the people that are the channel of the risks, right? So the fifth house has got a lot of scammers, and this is where you see it. Because remember also, when it comes to dating is like taking risks. It's just a pool of a lot of people with a lot of flavors, lots of hobbies, because it's also hobbies, right? So you pick and choose, pick and drop. You don't like, no, you change, you go to the next. It's like a buffet, right? This is like a buffet. There's no commitment when it comes to the dating and the romance and other people that are not your children, but other people that you meet externally. There is no commitment. With fans and artists and actors, there's no commitment. Your fan does not commit to you. They just commit to you until they don't want to commit to you anymore. Like until your music is not nice anymore, until your content is boring. Then they change and they find somebody else who's fresh, with a new content or whatever, right? Or new music, and they there's no commitment. This is not a certain energy. This is an energy of worship. These are worshippers, because remember, Sun is owning the house of the fifth house, the Leo house. So Sun is worshipped. So this is a house of worship, and worshippers will leave you if you don't preach what they like. Simple as that. Same thing with dating. You go out on a date, this week with this guy, and they say something that you don't like. They tell you that they're Virgo ascendant. And you're like, oh, I don't date Virgos, and you change, you go to another date to somebody else, and they tell you that they're an Aries ascendant. You're like, oh, I don't date Aries. So you have these things. No commitment is given here, because it's just a house of worship, and the house of foreplay, and the house of taking risks, and the house of trying new things. This is a buffet house, right? So now these people who are giving the worship, who are taking risks with you, can simply change their mind just like that tomorrow, because there is no commitment. Now, when it comes to the sixth house, whoa, this is where the real deal is. This is the quality enemy house, whereby your enemies are strengthened. This is their house. These are the enemies that will be highly hostile to you and will have the intent to be hostile against you. They will come in the ring with you with an intent to harm you, an intent to take from you, an intent to destroy your life. This house has the juice of enemy vibes. Now, we must also remember this house is the house of your K. When we're talking about K in South Africa, we talk about K as somebody who's a side piece to your man, a side person to your guy. This is their house. This is where you see your stepsister, your step brother, right? Because the sixth house is 12 places away from the seventh house of spouse. This is where your spouse, your partner, is hiding their person. I showed you this in my book, Dragon Yoga Astro book, by the way. So when it comes to the sixth house, literally it's just full of quality enemies. These are the enemies that are harsh. These are the enemies that are coming to destroy, to steal, and to just make sure your life goes upside down and is full of obstacles. These are the enemies that will make your mental health break down, because this is a house of health. On top of this, because of these enemies, definitely your health will be affected here. Sure thing, because it's two things. It's the enemy and it's the health. And when the health goes down, your day-to-day activities, they get stopped. Your job gets stopped. And your colleagues, they take your job. So also your colleagues are also your enemies, But again, remember, it depends on the planets that sit here. Because if you have a Venus here, and for an ascendant that Venus works with very well, your enemies could work against you, but because they're working so hard against you, they're actually helping you. Right? They think that, oh my gosh, we're gonna see her go down, we're gonna see him go down, but they don't know that they're building steps for you to go higher and higher and climb higher. Right? So it depends on the planets that are sitting here, because if you have a planet sitting here in your chart and is going well with your ascendant, your enemies can just forget it, because they're gonna waste their efforts, they're gonna waste their time, they're gonna waste their resources trying to dig a grave for you, but then it turns out they dig a grave for themselves. The deeper they dig, is the harder they can come out of the grave that they're digging for you. Right? And you're just there sitting, smiling, and just going, they don't know astrology, they don't know astrology. So this is really like a hardcore house. So if you want to see the person who's cheating with your person, the person who's cheating with your husband, the person who's cheating with your partner, just look at your sixth house. Look at your sixth house and you will see the types of people who are going around trying to snatch your man, going around trying to snatch your woman, I just laugh because I don't understand the notion of people who try to put so much effort to make one person, be destroyed. And for what? For what? Because it doesn't like make your life even greater than it is. It's temporary. This is a house. This is what people don't understand. Let's be real. Let's talk real for an example. I mean, for a minute, let's just be real. The sixth house is a house of temporary obstacles. It's a house of temporary enemies. It's a house of temporary things, because this is a day-to-day house where in the day-to-day things change. Right? Today you are eating vegetarian food, right? So you have your full meal of vegetarian, and tomorrow you're like, actually I don't want tofu. I'm gonna I'm gonna supplement. I'm gonna exchange tofu for soya, right? Well, I'm pescatarian, so I'm taking from my diet. But anyway, you look. These are the temporary things that you do and change every day. Even when you go to your workplace, no matter how much the job is routinely, it will still change. There will be a bit of thing that changes. Maybe your colleague says hello today, and the other one doesn't say hello today. It's not gonna be the same like a robotic. It can be routinious, like you do it every day, but it's not gonna be the same. It is not gonna be the same. Today, if you have 4 clients, tomorrow you're gonna have 5 clients, you're gonna have 6 clients, you're gonna have 7 clients that you are serving. It changes. You're doing the same job, but it changes. The variety changes. And because this is a house of temporary things, even your job is temporary. You can be in your job for 40 years, 50 years, but it is temporary. Do you know why? Because you will retire. You will meet an age whereby your government is going to say you are no longer allowed to work. Temporary. And then you're no longer working anymore. So even when it comes to enemies and obstacles, I want you to remember this for the rest of your life, that these things are temporary. Your enemies from this house and everything happening in this house, it's not going to last. Today your enemies can be strong, but with transits and with time, things will change. Do not give up. Do not think these obstacles that you have will win forever. It's temporary. Because the permanent house is opposited, which is the 12th house. This is where things become a bit permanent. Because even if you go to prison in the 12th house and you still get out, but that record stays permanent. And if it's not permanent on paper, because nowadays you can challenge and kind of like take out of the register your record, but it will stay permanent in your mind, because prison life changes people. Isolation changes people. Going to foreign lands changes people, because you meet different vibes, different foreigners, foreign language. It changes your perspective forever. And of course, the final change, which is permanent from the 12th house, is death itself. That's the biggest obstacle for some people. Whereas for some people, obviously, it's a getaway path. So when you're dealing with the sixth house things, I urge you to remember this forever, that this is temporary. When your man is making challenges, or your woman is making challenges for you by dating somebody else, by cheating on you, tell yourself that this is temporary. Why is it temporary? You can prove it by activating this house itself through divorce, through breakup, to prove that it is temporary. Therefore, you're getting rid of this third person in your relationship. You can also evoke this house, this same house, by going to a mediator, right? And you get help and you resolve the issues that you have. Because this is also the house of mediation, which shows you and proves to you that whatever you're experiencing from the sixth house is only temporary. It can be fixed. It can be fixed. Even your competition, your competitors, your haters that are building things against you, that are placing obstacles in your work, they also temporary, because they're also running on time. That's what they don't understand. They also running on borrowed time. And so it means that at some point their efforts will be useless or will work against them. And then you will be freed. So remember this house, this is the juice of the enemies, but then these are the techniques that I'm giving you, like life techniques that I'm giving you to strengthen your mental state when you're facing these things. Remember what this house is also giving you. It's also giving you the solutions to end these problems, or to deal with these problems, or to solve these problems. These conflicts from this house. All right, you have a problem with your colleague at the workplace, competition with your colleague at the workplace. They want your position, they want your job. In your mind, remember, this is temporary. I can end this, I can cut this by cutting this job, changing the job itself. Or I can push harder and be encouraged to go beyond this. Or I can mediate and, try to meet this enemy in the middle ground and see their strength, their weaknesses, and work with those things. Meet them halfway, right? Or you can simply just wait them out and see them, and look at them just, dig their own grave, thinking that they're digging for you. So very important. Now let's move on to the seventh house, because this is where things become critical for our relationships, because this is our partner, our spouse, our lover. And for those who do business, this is your business partner. But you know how they become enemies to you? You see that when you have conflicts, the way they behave is not the same. Some people within this, they can break up, like normally, like, thank you, this is not working out, abiento, ciao, right? And then with some people, they can be hostile, particularly if there are maleficia. Then you see, whoa, the enemy vibe, whereby the person that you used to lay down with becomes the worst enemy of your life. Somebody who wants to destroy you, because this is the house facing directly your ascendant, you. Somebody that knows your body, how you look when you are without clothes. Now they want to destroy you. So now it also goes the same with the business, because when it comes to businesses, let's be honest, businesses at some point can go sour, particularly if the contract, because this is also the house of contract, if the contract is not well adjusted, and fair. Once you miss the fairness of the contract that this house demands, same as with a relationship, once the fair part and the just part is missed, this is where you see the enemy vibes coming up. And because this is also the house of the public, the other people, anybody here can be your enemy. Somebody you thought was your acquaintance, somebody you thought was somebody who has your back, all of a sudden now they're working against you, and you're like, what? I did not expect you to be doing these things. Yes, because oh my gosh, as I always say, look at your ascendant, look at your planets, because some planets here, woo, they can show you flames, literally. Now, when it comes to the 8th house, hey. This is the house of the tax man. Lots of us, we pay taxes, right? And of course, this is not like an enemy that is hostile to you, but then you could feel like, a lot of people feel like, they work and then they have to pay taxes, then they work and all of that, right? So that's the enemy vibe. But then this is the house of the in-laws. It becomes sensitive, because these people are the people who gave birth to your partner, are the people who gave everything to the person that you love. And they can be anemic naturally by, the initial resistance between, people who just met, whereby they're trying to get to know you, and maybe they say something that you don't like, and then you feel offended, or you say something that they don't like and they feel offended, or it can be out there hostile, where you have certain ascendants, matching this 8th house, or certain planets being here, whereby now it's just like they don't like you, they just hate you, they don't like you, and they're going to do everything to destroy your life. So anyway, this year could also be enemies such as people who are doing magic against you, like, people who are doing voodoo, when it's like at night, people are busy binding things and spelling out your name and putting your picture and just trying to bring bad things towards you, trying to change your life suddenly, because it's a sudden thing. So there are those enemies here who have the shadow energy. And of course, this is also the house of, the undertaker, both in a literal and in a figurative form. These are people who can take you under, right? These are hitmen. This is the house of hitmen, whereby they can be hired to take you out. So these are enemies. These enemies are mostly in this house. The enemies here, they just want to take you out, just silence you, because it's facing the 2nd house of speech. So the enemies of the 8th house, they have the energy of wanting to silence you. So it could be silencing you in a literal form or in a figurative form. But then this is also a house of help. So to deal with these enemies, also use the same house. In fact, for all houses, this is the advice that I'm giving you. For all houses, the help is also in the same house. To beat the enemies of the 3rd house, use the tools of the 3rd house, your courage, your braveness, your competence, your communication. To beat the enemies of the sixth house, use mediation and use conflict methods to resolve the issue. Use be competitive yourself. Work hard, repeat until you get it right. To beat the enemies of the seventh house, play the game, be romantic, flirt with your person, show love, show fairness, partnership, do what they do for you, serve what they serve you. To beat the enemies of the eighth house, the psychological help here. Go to a psychologist, go to a therapist, go to an astrologer, go to a voodoo priest yourself, go to a sangoma, have work done against the people who are trying to get you down. So the energy of the eighth house is also here to help you beat the enemies that are coming from here, right? To have your tax done, go see a financial analyst, a financial person. Guys, the help is in your chart. Each house has problems, but the same house gives you the solution. When we're talking about your body, when your body fails you, it is also your body that helps you by doing what? Strengthening the body, exercise, have, somebody check on it, strengthen your muscles, strengthen your mind. Because once you strengthen your mind, no one can take you down. They can try, but they won't do it. When we're talking about the ninth house, this is the house of, teachers, the house of the people that you look up to, the house of your mentors, and the advices of your father. Here, this is not the physical form of your father. This is the teachings of your father, the skills that you get from your father here. Because remember, the physical form of your father is the 10th house, opposite your mother. It can't be 12 places away, it's 6 places away. Your father is not an enemy to your mother. Your father is opposite your mother, directly looking, forming a relationship. The same way your ascendant is looking in the 7th house is the same your mama and your papa are. It's a relationship thing, seven places away. So when it comes to the 9th house, these are the teachings, the motivations that you get from your father or the lack thereof. And, the skills that your father gives you, because your mother's skills, they come from the 3rd house. This is where your mother teaches you how to do things. And then the teachings of the father are opposite. It doesn't change the formula, opposite, the 9th house. So here, your father can, through his teachings, be an enemy to you by maybe showing you the wrong thing, or not even being there to teach you how to be a man, to teach you how to be a lady that is treated nicely by young man and all of these things, like a role model. Your father is not there to be the role model that you need. So that can be an anemic vibe. That's how your father can be. Even your father can just be totally just abusive, towards you. So these are the enemy vibes we can see from your father. But because this is also the house of your teachers can be your worst enemies, because they control the information that you get. So through that teaching, they can teach you horrific things that will work against you, or they can withhold useful information that you need and therefore acting against you anyway. This is also the house of travelers. So you know how people, because you guys, I also like to do the postpartum work. I like to see why people die. I like to do that using astrology because it gives a lot of insight. I like to investigate those things. I like to investigate the missing people, why they are they missing. The ninth house becomes important for such details because this is the house of traveling and this is the house of travelers. People who get lost while traveling, you can see it from the ninth house. And therefore, anyone that you will meet while traveling and they do harm to you, it becomes key of how they can be anemic to you, your enemies. And of course, also people who have different belief systems from us, because this is a house of beliefs. When you say something that they don't believe in, they become enemies to you. They want to challenge you. They want to challenge your political views, your religious views. Oh yeah, you said this. Oh yeah, you're hurting my feelings. I don't want to see you anymore. Bye. Enemy a vibe. And when it comes to the 10th house, now this is the house of the father, the physicality of the father. And your father can be anemic in a sense that they absent from your life. Maybe they pass on, or maybe they choose to reject you. For example, if there's Ketu here, they something takes them away from you or from connecting with your father. So that energy brings this anemic vibe which affects your development. This is also the house of the government, like the higher government, like the national government, whereby you have this political party against this political party, and then they all come and then they try to get your votes and all of that. And of course, what the government does, or how their behavior can affect you and can be anemic to your own development, your own economic growth, and all of these things, right? This is also the house of your boss. At work, this is your boss. And most people, they have this natural anemic energy with the boss, because the boss doesn't necessarily intend to be an enemy, but because of their requirements of you, be on time, come here on time, have 30 minutes lunch, and if you're not here, I'm going to have to note it down, because they're also wanting to keep their jobs, right? So these anemic vibes can come up here. And of course, if you're not doing your job well, they want to fire you. They have warnings and all of these things, which is what an anemic energy towards you. And your boss can be your enemy. This is also the house of your mother-in-law. I forgot to say the 4th house is your father-in-law. But anyway, the 10th house is also your mother-in-law. And many people, many women to be specific, they have this natural enemy relationship with their mothers-in-laws. Now, it is not necessarily because it's normal. It's just that some mothers, they have difficulty to letting their sons go, and because they have that difficulty to realizing that my job is done now, then there could be that conflict that comes naturally when you meet somebody who wants to take your possession, as some mothers look at their sons as possession. So and of course, if there are malefics and other things here, of course, then the hostility can be there, whereby you swearing at your mother and vice versa, and all of these big things, right? Now, when it comes to the 11th house, this is a house of our friends. These are the friends that we meet in our adulthood as we grow older. Because remember, the 11th house, the 3rd house is childhood friends. The 11th house is grown-up friends that we meet when we start to work, when we start to converse, when we go to protests. These are the friends that we meet, for those who drink, when they go to the bar. And, these are the maturity-ish types of friends that we meet in our adulthood. And of course, they can be, malefic to you or anemic to you when they, do things that backstab you. Particularly if your ascendant is going against this 11th house, then these are the friends that could give you wrong advice, that could, try to harm you or try to, just separate you from your relationship, separate you from your family and all these things, right? But this is also the house of, our social circles where we socialize with other people, like our sports club. I play chess, or my chess group, my chess club. This could be, there are people who come from here because there's competition. Of course, when you have a society whereby you show some sort of skill or some sort of relevance or some sort of status, then there could be that anonymity that comes in, right? Even like on social media platforms, there's this natural vibe whereby everybody else wants to, to grab your attention, and that anonymity comes in through those circles, right? So when it comes to the 12th house, this is the house that, hey, so deep, this house. It's so deep, we don't know where it ends, or if it ends, or if we have enough solutions for this house. That's how deep it is. But when it comes to this house, what do we see, or what we can see, is that there is a lot of spiritual warfare. There are a lot of people who would be working against you whilst you are sleeping. They send their energies, and for people like, myself, we can see, some things when we sleep in dreams. We can see enemies, we can see their faces, we can see whatever, right? And once they're exposed, they can't be powerful anymore, because once you see them, even if they try to cover them, your intuition will reveal them, or your spiritual guides will reveal, these spiritual attacks or attackers, so to speak, right? But this is when you're sleeping. This is your bedroom, and there's these spirits that are being sent, particularly if you're in the spiritual world, as we all are, right? Energies and all of that. And there are people who are trying to get your energy, trying to steal your energy, your ideas, your visions, in terms of what you can see, in terms of what you can spiritually do. There's also hidden enemies. This is a house of hidden enemies. People that you will never in your life know that they are enemies, that they are your enemies, right? Unless, of course, there's a beautiful transit of sun. So because sun here always reveals, if you want to know who your enemies are and you're not sure, wait until your sun is transiting your 12th house, and trust me, whoever is being revealed at that time as your enemy, believe it, because sun is a soul. It means that it's got this natural imprint of knowing more than we do. Sun has the original, knowledge of what is going on in our lives, because this is the soul that comes into the body, into the ascendant, into the form, but it's coming in with the knowledge of the beginning and the ending. So when your sun is transiting in particular houses and information is revealed to you about certain people, do not take it lightly. Now, when your ascendant is naturally impacted in a less profitable way. I'm trying to look for nice words so that I don't bring up fear. So when your ascendant is less profitable when it comes to sun, sometimes the information that it reveals to you, you could reject it. You could try to be egoistic too much and try to be prideful instead of owning up to the truth that is being revealed to you. You could take it personally. You could take it as an attack to you. You could take it as people lying, maybe about your person or about this person that is being exposed to you as your enemy. So yeah, that plays a factor definitely when it comes to the ascendant, like what ascendant are you, and the aspects of the planets as usual, right? This is also the house now, it gets interesting, of your side piece, of your side person. If you are cheating on your person or you are dating other people, so to speak, this is that house. This is where you hiding your person. This is where you hiding your dirt. Now, your person that you're hiding is definitely your enemy. It's not is definitely your enemy, because you are hiding them. You hiding them makes them your enemy immediately, because immediately when they decide to expose you, to come out of the hiding, to say, hey, look, well, I'm dating so and so, I'm with her, I'm with him, he's trying to hide me, your life is embarrassed, right? So immediately when you are hiding a third party in the 12th house, because this is where you hide your third party, your person, you invite an enemy naturally. This is why the 12th house is also the house of self-doing. You, the actions that you do consciously or subconsciously act against you. This is why it's called a house of self-undoing. It is your actions that you do that act against you, right? For example, as I just gave, when it comes to the person that you're seeing on the side, how they can come up and be, and embarrass you. And with transit, definitely, the exposure of that person can be done and you can be embarrassed, right? So, and of course, the final part is, the passing on itself can be endemic to us, particularly if you have dreams or you wanted to do things for your family or other people. Ending your life like your life being ended, could obviously stop your dreams and the life that you wanted to experience, right? So becoming enemy itself. So yeah, guys, that's the relationship that we have with our enemies and how these people can be an enemies coming from each house. It gets deeper, guys. This is just a base. This is basic for YouTube, but it gets deeper, and when it gets deeper, it gets really tough and very hard to deal with, right? But with astrology, the more you learn astrology, the harder you go and the deeper you get. And you know what, it's a bit dark in there. It's a bit dark. I'll chat to you soon. A bientôt.